So I'm also starting the demo on my screen. I'm first sketching. So like a normal practice, I will first define how much area on the paper I will occupy. So I define some kind of a limit, and then I look at the proportion somewhere here in the center of my paper. I will identify where the objects are in context to the center. So I'll get some reference point. And look, the way I'm holding the pencil is almost midway and not here. Okay, so it's somewhere here that I'm holding it. So I get a very light impression. I observe the overlapping forms, the drapery here, and then the spherical object or the fruit here. With a very light hand, I'll do the placements. In context to the first fruit, the second fruit is a little higher up, in line with the jug or in line with that metal object, and the size of the apple. Draw, since it's a symmetrical object, I will draw a center line. So once I define the height of this, I'll draw an oval shape at the bottom to define the shape of the curve, and then the conical top. In the handle, then the spherical top. And at the bottom, I'll draw again a curve. I can see only part of the curve at the bottom. So my placement drawing has been done. I also draw the handle. I see the shape of it. What is the outer form? How much outside it is from the lid of the dabba. And then draw a vertical line. I look at the positive negative space. It's a very simple placement that I've done with the proportions. So I can do some corrections accordingly. The apple seems to be smaller here, so I will enlarge it slightly so that it fits the proportion accordingly. I will modify this position and size. Now I'll erase. Ira. Ira.
Hello.
Hi. We are doing a still life in watercolor. So I've sent you on WhatsApp a reference image. Ira. So now once your placement drawing is done, erase the lines once you're comfortable with the proportions, with the outer shape, position, composition. You can erase off whatever lines you don't require and keep it very light, like I'm holding the pencil this stage here, like this. And remember, my pencil is not sharpener sharpened. It is knife. It is with a cutter that I have. So it is with cutter like this, and the length of the wood here and the lead gives you access from far away like this. And since we're dealing with a symmetrical object, it's important that you draw the center line vertical so that on either side you get symmetry. So observe that. There is a drapery, a blue color cloth, strip like a stripes one. So have a suggestion of that drapery with the folds. The folds can be seen with the how the strips change shape from here to here. So the little roundity of the grid or the strips gives you an idea of the drapery. So the lines of the folds is what you need to draw. Observe the proportions of the object and the position with relation to each other. So if you've done the jar, then see where the two fruits are positioned. What is the size of the fruit? How do you find it? You can find it by drawing an angle, drawing this horizontal line here. So you'll know what is the relationship with the other object, position and proportion. And finally, as a composition, whether it looks nice. When you erase it very soft because the paper texture tends to be damaged if you erase your drawings, or when you draw an outline. If you've done a very dark outline, then it pierces into the texture of the paper. That's why we don't use a vertical pencil while drawing. We use almost a horizontal position like this. So for water, I'm using two containers. If all of you can look at the screen, two containers, one for clean water and one for washing. Okay, dirty water, washing the brushes after the use. So the smaller one I keep for fresh water. And there's always a cloth which I keep so that I can wipe anything that the brushes or any colors that spill out. I'm going to use these four sizes of the brushes. All of you have these sizes with you: thin brush, medium brush, and a large brush. Do you have?
Sir,
Yeah.
what sizes are there?
Here it's called 16 number, 9 number, 6 number, and 0 number. So essentially variations, the smallest, the thinnest one is this one, which is called 0 number.
Okay, because I think I have a brush like yours, and but it's labeled like 1,
Yeah,
4, 6, and 10.
yeah, that's fine. So you need one very thin brush and one very large brush like this for the wash, and some in between brushes for doing some details.
Okay.
So 3 to 4 brushes are good enough. Ira, do you have watercolor brushes?
Yes.
Okay. Kara, you have it.
Sir, I don't think I have those exact ones. I think I have two of those, but I don't know about the other two.
But you have a large and a thin brush.
Yes.
Fine. So in terms of watercolors, I have these. One is a cake colors. Okay, so yeah, either you can use that, or you can use these regular tube colors. So anything is okay. Which one do you have at your end?
I have two.
Tube colors. What about Ira and Ria and Anusha?
I have watercolors and the acrylics.
Okay. And,
I have like the ones in the palette. Like I can show you.
yeah.
I
Ria?
have both.
Both. Okay. So for me, both are good. Now what happens is there is a student range and there is a artist range. So these are artist watercolor which are of higher quality and they are better, more richer in color and consistency. Okay, so this one tube colors gives me a nice flow. These ones are good for detailing, so I use them for detailing. Yeah. So first layer I would generally use this, but even this is the same. I can use it when I don't have a tube color. So nothing to lose if you don't have a tube color. Then I have a, a palette. It could be a anything like multiple wells. Like here, there could be different wells here, or it could be something like this. So there's something new which I picked up. So I'm trying it out. This is made up of acrylic, and it cleans up anything which is left over on the in very easily. So I'm trying this out for the first time. Yeah, palettes usually get dirty. If it is watercolor, you can keep the colors on it because
Can you like move the plate for a minute? I need to see like the napkin.
what do you want to see?
The silk thing.
This one? What do you want to see? This one?
In the drawing.
In the drawing. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So I also use sometimes a masking tape. So this is called a masking tape. It's like a sellotape, but it doesn't damage the paper. Okay. So Ira and Kara, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So I also use a masking tape so that the edges of the, so suppose I want to kind of mask out areas here, I can paste it here. Um, and cut it off. So masking is generally done so that when watercolors need to be uh, painted beyond this, it gets masked and I get a very clean finish later when I remove the mask. So the insides of it needs to be pasted properly. For this painting, you don't need a mask. I'm just showing you why to use a mask. Yeah. So I've created a rectangular area with the mask. So now we are going to start. Now the beauty about watercolor is that we uh, start with pure water. So I'm going to load up my largest brush with water. So I load up my brush with water, dab a little so that I don't have too much water dripping. I don't want dripping water. I want just a good loaded wet brush so that it's called loaded brush. Okay. So I'll use this term, load your brush. So sometimes with water, sometimes with color. So this beginning we are starting with water. Now I'm going to first create the background. So I'm going to very carefully, so from top I can start off only water. I don't see what I'm painting, but I'm using just water to fill up the background, and the edges of the product or the still life I will leave out. I don't take my brush inside. So very carefully at the edges I will brush water so that it doesn't go inside the shapes that I've created. So first I'll apply just water in the background. Now why I'm applying water, so much water, is it will remain wet till I finish all the areas where the background is. So that's why I need a loaded brush so that the water doesn't dry. So very carefully I will. So when I'm doing the edges, I will do it in one patch like this, one stroke. I'll come down here, just fill up with water. Now once we are ready with that, then probably I'll take a yellow color background. What was the background here? Yeah, a yellow ochre color. And I'm going to mix my cake colors like this first on the cake. So just have a look how I use the color, and on the palette I will take the colors separately here. So I'll take the color from the cake and create some more color on the right hand side with some consistency of water, and I'll drop the colors. Now look here, I will drop the colors with the flat brush very randomly like this. Okay, randomly on this side first. Because it's wet, it will automatically spread. I will take some amount of, say, orange color, a different color, mix it with the same yellow and drop little more on the right and on the corners. So I make a little darker color. And I come down. Now so the outside, the top area, I'll keep it little darker with little orange mixed into my yellow. So if I run out of colors, I can again make colors, little darker color, and from the corners, I'm getting it inside. Now when I come towards the objects, I'll be little careful as to how I spread the colors. So along the edges. Now because the water is there in the background, I can clean my brush now and just take water, and near the objects I can just blend the colors which I've put with only water. So when it comes down, I get a very lighter color of yellow. So the first is a wash. Okay, this is called as a wash technique. So you put a wash. It doesn't matter where you put dark light. There's absolutely no problem. The main thing is it should blend itself together very well, and the outlines of the object should not be filled, the inside of the objects. So I've filled up. Now just to make it little dramatic, I will add a little crimson red or a dark red. Okay, and I can drop colors in the background like this. Okay, and again mix it with the original color and probably put some diagonal lines which represent maybe a cloth or a drapery. So usually in still life you have a drapery. So I'm adding this which is not there in the original. So I'm just adding a few diagonal cross lines, broader on the top, and the color is still wet. So this is called the wet in wet technique. Once you have a wash, apply the second color while it is wet. So this is a wet in wet technique. Allow it to dry. So aesthetically, you can choose what you want to do here. Don't do any overwork. Just keep it very subtle, nice. Clean your brush after use. While it is drying, clean your brush.
Sir, do we have to do the yellow for the background, or can we choose another color?
It can be any color. No problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use pure water, clean water, and I'll remove excess water like this. And I'm going to create a uh, I'll remove this excess water, and I can lift certain colors while it is still little wet. I can lift colors, so you can see that color being lifted. So this is called lifting colors. So with a clean brush, I create some lighter areas. So I can do that wherever I want. Say in this area I want a lift off, so I can lift the color and clean up. Right now I'm using my finger, but you can use a cloth in your hand, and you can lift highlights like this. See that? So I'm just showing you a technique uh, whereby you can lift colors in watercolor. So any color which is here, you can give a nice little shape to it. But it needs to be a clean brush, not a colored brush. Like this. So this is called lifting. Can we go to the fruit? Should I show you the fruit now?
Sir, I accidentally went below the line of the background. Should I just cover it in the next when I do the lower part?
No, no problem. We will do, if you have run into yellow color in the bottom part, then instead of a blue cloth, we will do a yellow cloth. Okay. So we'll use a darker yellow for creating the stripes. No problem.
Oh, I did a blue, so should I do
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'll show you how to do that blue. So if you have done it, I'll show it right away. So the blue which I'm using, probably the cerulean blue. There's a Prussian blue here. So I will use a mix of cerulean and Prussian like this, and keep it very lighter with more water. All of you seeing this? So I'm going to just use a very light impression in one stroke. Now you see how it happens in one stroke. So I've loaded the brush in one stroke. I'm going to press my brush and lift my brush as it I want a lighter tone here. Over here also, I'll do it in one stroke. Okay, I will not brush it like this. So even this one, the next one, I will press the brush here to get a thicker one, and I will paint the stroke like this. The triangle here will be done like this, the stroke. So it is a random one, but I'm doing it in one stroke like this. I'm leaving some white spaces. So that becomes the way you do a single stroke. So even this vertical lines of the drapery, I will press, lift. So overlap of watercolor gives you a darker tone in short. Okay. So wherever you want the blue to go, do it one stroke. Fill up the edges carefully so that it doesn't go inside the product. While it is wet, you can actually blend it so they mix around very easily when the colors are wet. So wet in wet technique is the best for mixing colors. So that's good enough. Wherever there's an overlap or a shadow, you can use a little darker color or overlap the color. Yeah.
I have 3 different blues. Can I just pick anyone to do?
Anyone, mix any two. Be brave enough to experiment with colors.
Okay.
Okay, so don't worry which colors you use. Just feel free. Whatever your gut feeling says. There are no rules. So for the shadows, I'm going to use a deeper blue, which is, I call it Prussian blue here. So I mix it with little magenta, with little red. So I get a little purplish color. And I will do the shadow, the dark part around the object with that blue purple. And I'm using a little thicker brush only because it's a wet in wet technique. While the colors are wet, I'm dropping the dark colors also. And observe in the jug, there is a reflection of the same. So I will just copy that same pattern, what I see in my reflection with some light blue and dark blue. So I'll try to paint that also. And this can be a little random. You don't have to be very accurate, but very important is that the reflection of the greenish fruit, that area is left white because I need to color green there in the reflection, and the red fruit on this side, I need to have some placement done of the red in the reflection. So I leave that much area. So blue, light blue is the safest color for outlining whenever you want to do a quick outlining in color. So now I've painted the reflections also. Once the painting is completed, it will look nice. Right now it may look patchy, it may look incomplete. Okay, you guys have some 10-15 minutes you can sustain, or you want to close the class on time?
I can go longer.
15 minutes?
Wednesday.
Yeah. Ria, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Ira, that's okay with you also?
Sir?
15 minutes is okay if you can sustain 15 minutes more.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah.
Can we use a thinner brush for the edges?
Yeah, you can, of course you can. See, I have practiced it so much that I can control my hand with a large brush also. Okay, but the wash is given with a large brush. The details are done with the thinner brushes. And right now we haven't gone into details yet. We are doing all the washes first. Can I show you the red fruit? Tell me once you're ready. I'll show you the red fruit, which is the apple in this case. And look at the demo now. So the wet in wet technique, I will complete it for even for the fruit, the red fruit. So the yellow comes first here. So while using the wash technique, I'm using a large brush. So I use the highlight area. I leave a little white edge because there's a highlight on the top of the apple. I also mark one white area somewhere here. So there's a highlight here also. And then I use a orange color, a little orange color from yellow to where it should come to the next. I add a little orange. It is still wet in wet. And then I use a little deeper red. And while the colors are wet, I will brush the colors here. So you'll see that the colors start blending with each other. And because I want a little lighter red, I'll clean my brush. I lift the color here so that I get a little lighter red here and a little deeper red here. And then I use a little darker brown. This is a brown color. I'll use this red here, a little bit of orange, and use the darker tone for the shadows here. So the shadows become more darker, more deeper, and I give it a shape with my, right now I'm using a large brush. You can use a thin brush for doing the edges. Okay, so can you see the wet in wet effect which is coming through? Now the only thing that I need to add is a bit of uh, shadows, deeper shadows. So I'll take a little blue and mix little red and make it purplish, and I will add those dark tones, blue. If I want to make anything darker with red, I'll mix little blue in it, and I'll leave some darker tones here. Okay, so can you see that even in the reference you'll find, and then a few dots here and there, and a small, okay, and there is a little red around on top. So I'll use a little red. I can use earlier colors which I've created just with water. So I will, since the colors are wet, I can add a little colors on top. If I want to blend these colors, I clean my brush totally, take pure water, make it, dry it off. I don't take much water now. I use my cloth, and then I lift some colors in the edges. So I get a soft color. Can you see that blending happening? Right? So that's how I do a fruit where I have left a highlight here. I've left an edge here on the, so only the edge I can just carry forward the darker tone so I get a little more definition, and then I take a clean brush and mix it with water. It doesn't look like an outline, looks like a nice blending color like this. So that's all you have to do. So even for the other one, the other fruit, so I'm leaving a highlight somewhere here in the center. So there's a white space in, I've left paper white, and then I'm using a very light lemon yellow, and coloring the fruit. As I go out, I will use a little cerulean blue and I will mix it while the color is wet. So the advantage of wet and wet is to mix the colors like this. So the edges, the outer edges, you can leave little white space on this side. Can you see the highlight? So that allows you to dim. It doesn't mix with the background. You still get the view of the. So a little bit of blue, more blue, just to add a little shadows at the bottom. That's all you need, and just leave it to dry. So even that fruit is complete. Now the most challenging part is um, the 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 glass, the steel jar. So first I'm going to do the reflections. So I use the same color, which is the lemon yellow, to paint the reflection of this guy on this. So I pick up the same blue and add that little blue. Now here I don't make it so intense. I take some water and I say, okay, go lighter, lighter. So with water, I will make it lighter. And again, I'll leave some white edges so that there is enough separation in that. Okay, some white edges here and there. Similarly, for the uh, apple reflection, I will use a wash of red, a wash of little orange, so that I blend both. Take some water now and blend it with the other area. So have a little variety of color, and then take little purple color and do the shadows. So that should be good enough for the apple to be there. Okay. We will do the details of this once this dries off. We will draw this vertical line, the small stem part of it. We can definitely put some more shadows with a darker color. Just drop the colors there. It's good enough. Right? Don't do any details. Now, since you're doing the reflections are very easy. What you need to do is your background color, if it is yellow, ochre or something, some of that should come here, the same color reflection. So I'm first going to use that ochre yellow with some red, little red, and it's a very light color. I use a vertical brush and draw vertical lines, some thin lines, some broad lines, but I leave a white area, large white area, which becomes my highlight. So I color my other part of the utensil with vertical lines. First, which relates to the background color because that's a reflection of the background. Okay, so here it is a conical thing, so I'll go conical, right? So till here, all the reflections will happen. So even in the dark areas, I'm just filling up yellow first. Right, so this is how this one is done. Then I take a little darker brown, or it's called a raw sienna or burnt sienna, mix it with my original color, and do the darker tone, which is the shadow area. It's still not the darkest, but you go step by step. Don't go extreme dark right in the beginning, just fill up with, so it helps you to guide you. So draw patches wherever you want the darker reflections to show up. So don't go fully dark yet. So I'm adding few dark patches on top, few darker blending. So I need to blend this. So how do I blend it? Clean my brush, remove excess water on the cloth, and then with less water, you just brush it up like this. So it blends to the top. Okay. Anywhere you want to blend it, just clean water and brush it, right? So that's a lifting technique or a blending technique. And the last part would be to take little darker brown, maybe add a little black. So add a little black. Now whenever you add a little black, remember to add a little red into it, so it becomes a richer dark, not a dull dark. So with a little red, it becomes little better. So use this darkest color. So this comes in the shadow area. Be careful on the reflections here. You can also add a small shadow at the top. So just some vertical lines, some darker tones in some places. So the reflections, they look like this on steel surfaces. So you can get the environment there. You can also put the handle in the same color first, and later on we'll make it darker. So first give a base color. You can mix some blue in this and you can bring it down. So be absolutely bold in using colors. You can mix different colors into one color. It will look nice. So I draw the handle. So I've mixed some magenta, some blues into it. And then finally I'll add some black into the same color. And I'll make it darker. So first my base helps me to give a position, color, shape. If anything goes wrong, I can correct it at that level. Out of practice, now I know that certain colors will behave in a certain way when overlapped. So I just add some darker colors on top of it. Yeah, so these become my dark areas. Now the top part, which is a simple blue color with a little purple mixed into it, I'll make it little dull because it's not a bright color. So I make it dull. I fill it up like this with a little brushing white areas. Some white areas are left. I'll do this like this. There are some horizontal highlights here. Leave that. The reflection. So all this I have not drawn it. I observe it and I paint it as I see it. Okay. Some yellow on the corner here. I'm looking at the reference and I'm painting. So that kind of gives me a complete picture of how a simple watercolor can become interesting. If I need to mix, remember I need to take clean water, wipe off the water and just brush the corners. So I get a blending effect. So all the techniques of watercolor gets covered here. Whenever you want to apply some wash, apply a wash and apply little area and then clean your brush, clean your water and then just take it around. Leave some white areas here so that the wet color don't, if I touch this, the top color will blend down. You want to see how it comes down? So if I touch this, you'll find that now it starts blending here. So that's the way a still life can be painted. The last part, of course, is to add some darker tones, which is the shadows. So you can dabble with your color here and you can get some nice dark tones below the product. below the subject, you can add shadows like this. So shadows give you a sense of depth. If you want a soft shadow, then you can clean your brush, and then the edge of the shadow you can lift off the color like this. So you'll get a soft shadow. Any questions on this?
Will you be sending an image of this on WhatsApp?
Yeah, I will send this. I'll send the video also, and I'll send the image also. Now the last thing is peeling off this paper. Now this is a paper which is not, it's a rough sketching paper I have, but a good paper will peel off. You get a nice clean edge. Right now it's stripping off the paper surface, but a good paper, if I use a nice watercolor paper, then I'll get a this is damaging my paper, but this is not the uh, best paper you can use. It's a simple cartridge paper. But if I now show you, so you'll get a nice clean edge. Some of the colors have gone here because probably the pasting was not good. That's how you create a quick still life in watercolors. Is that clear?
Yes.